Good evening. It's Monday, July 6, 2026. I call this meeting the Select Board to order with roll call vote. Ms. Malone.
Here.
Mr. Hannigan.
Here.
Mr. Mortensen.
Here.
And I am here. Mr. Parker is not joining us. After 8 o'clock, please, no reactions about the game. I am taping the game. We'll go swift expulsion from the chambers. Any reaction whatsoever, so watch quietly. Go USA. First item on the agenda is public comment. Is there a public wishing to comment? Please approach. You will have 3 minutes, and I will keep the time today.
Sure. Name is Robert Calanteri, 8 Donovan Drive. We have an item on the agenda about gas blowers. I would like to ask town to be considerate when proposing any regulations for gas blowers. We need to be practical. Many homeowners in our town have large properties with many trees that comes with the headache of cleaning the leaves in the fall. I am not against using electric battery operated blowers. In fact, in 1984, when I bought my first house in Waltham, I bought an electric blower back in 1984. And I used it for a lot that I had, which was 1/4 acre, served the purpose. When I moved to Bedford in 1990, with 1.5 acre lot, it became impossible to use electric blowers. My second house in Bedford is 1 acre with many trees, and I have to clean it, blow the leaves in the fall several times for several hours a day. So it's not practical for me to use handheld electric blowers. Having a battery-operated leaf blower is not an option, at least for me and many homeowners in town. I think many homeowners who have the option are already using non-gas powered blowers. And I have one non-gas that I use it for a smaller cleaning job in the garage and whatnot. So I would ask the town not to put any strict regulations for using gas blowers, rather encourage the homeowners to use electric leaf blowers if practical. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Come on up.
Thank you for considering banning or regulating gas-powered leaf blowers.
Name and address, please.
Sam Raleigh, 6 Perham Street.
Thank you.
Of the options that you're going to talk about tonight, the most important options are option 4, the commercial use limits, and option 5, combined narrow regulation. Those seem to be the best options. Commercial teams are really the most disruptive and have caused the most problems for me personally, including blowing trash onto my yard, as well as operating multiple leaf blowers on my property simultaneously, and causing further problems when I asked them to leave. That was a disruptive and problematic event. Also, they talk about Greenwich, Connecticut has a policy limiting smaller parcels, so 1 blower at a time, which makes a lot of sense, considering sometimes the commercial teams have 6 or 7 blowers for the fall or spring cleanup, and that causes just excessive amounts of noise and pollution that's beyond anything acceptable in a neighborhood. And finally, the DPW really should consider switching over as well. We need to be leaders as a town and make changes, whether that's, there's more options than just switching to electric. There's leaving the leaves in some areas. There's putting rakes on the front of riding mowers, and as well as using, community volunteers with rakes. There's a lot of other options other than just switching to electric and saying, "Oh, electric doesn't have the power, we can't do it," isn't good enough. We need to think outside the box, come up with better solutions, and find a way to make this town greener and less full of pollution. Thanks.
Thank you. You can sit too, and feel free to sit. Yeah, this is in a standing comment section.
I'm Susan Schwartz from 34 Glenridge Drive. I am the chair of the Board of Health, and I'd like to just read into record some of a letter that the Board of Health sent to the Select Board and to Matt Hansen on December 30th of 2025. Dear Select Board members, in response to a prior discussion at a Select Board meeting regarding gas-powered leaf blowers, the Bedford Board of Health offers the following information for your consideration. I'm going to start with the end, which talks about our recommendation, and then I'll get into the health. And Matt, so that I don't have to read the entire letter again, added it to your packet, so you can look at it there. But the Bedford Board of Health strongly recommends the Select Board adopt mitigation strategies that limit the negative health impacts to the town employees, contractors, and residents by the use of gas leaf blowers. And here's some of the health information. Air and noise pollution generated by gas leaf blowers cause significant impact to public health. Use of this equipment in communities produces a combination of chemicals that contribute not only to ground level ozone, but also fine level particulate matter that can be inhaled by people using the equipment and by people nearby, along with significant noise pollution for the public. Emissions include carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, benzene, nitrogen oxide, hydrocarbons, and particulate matter. And exposure to these pollutants is associated with numerous health conditions, including asthma, heart attacks, cardiovascular disease, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, autism, cancer, dementia, and early death. Those whose health is at greatest risk include older adults, people with chronic illness, children, and workers who operate this equipment for 8 or more hours a day. Children are extremely vulnerable to these hazards due to the fact that they breathe more air per pound of body weight than adults and the immaturity of their developing lungs, eyes, ears, and other organ systems. In the letter, we also have significant health hazards from the Institute of Exposmic Research at the Icahn School of Medicine.
30 seconds.
Yeah. And those include leaf blowers and the airborne pollutants, a butterfly effect of spreading dust and pollen, and then also noise pollution. So I appreciate if you could look at the letter that we had sent previously.
Thank you very much. Next. Steve, you want to
I can speak from here. As a person who's traveled to over 30
introduce
countries.
yourself, please?
Belgium, Stephen Hagen, 43 Concord Road, chair of various committees. Belgium has the best beer in the world, but I hope the USA beats Belgium tonight, okay? All right, that's my speech. You can take
Yeah.
minutes.
Let that be read into the official meeting record.
Hi, I'm Lucy Weinstein. I live at 4 Chestnut Lane, Bedford, and I'm a retired environmental health pediatrician and also member of Mothers Out Front. And
my father's neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. And you know me from the pumpkin smash.
It's true.
I actually had sent, belatedly, since I was away this weekend, to all of you 2 documents which talk about the hazards of gasoline leaf blowers, medical aspects, and a nice summary flyer. Basically, change is hard. We know that. There's no solution that's perfect. But from the medical stand of view and what you've just heard, which was just so perfect, and I won't repeat all the harms that you've heard about, but think about the pros, the convenience, a beautiful pristine lawn. Back where I used to live on Lawn Guy Land, everybody wanted their lawn pristine, versus the harms. Unfortunately, we don't see them, so that we're not all aware of them, but they're just to balance the harms to all of us, all of our neighbors, all of the kids, the animals, pets and the workers who frequently are not wearing protective equipment. I just urge you to pass the most restrictive ban or restrictions that you can. Ideally, it would be a complete ban. I understand that that's probably not practical. By the way, just from my own my own training in public health, education alone, if you can even consider that, is generally not effective for almost any public health intervention. Humans are humans. They do stupid things, but they also don't listen to them. Anyway, so we're going to need some kind of regulations. Don't worry about enforcement yet. People are saying, well, if we pass this, how are we going to enforce it? Usually just passing an act will have an immediate effect, and you worry about the enforcement downstream. We have so many communities right around us that have bans. Lexington is now as of March 15th this year, has a complete ban. They do have an exception for four stroke gasoline leaf blowers, I don't know if you've heard of this two-stroke engine that they've released a lot of their gasoline unburned, which is toxic, as you've heard. So they have an exception for four-stroke engine for greater than 1 acre properties for wheel blowers. Anyway, you can talk about that.
In about 30 seconds.
But I just wanted to make sure that you think about when you're passing any kind of legislation, which I hope you'll do, consider the harms, which are so extensive in so many ways, versus the benefits of having a pristine lawn. Looks good, and you're harming your neighbors. So thank you, and I have a ton more information. I sent it to all of you, as I said, belatedly, all of this information. And by the way, I'll be happy to talk to the town manager. I know he has concerns about large properties. Plenty of people in other areas, managers of other counties and towns, be happy to talk to him to tell him how to work it, how to do it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe?
Good evening, Joe Piantadosi, 14 Putnam Road, and I want to also comment on leaf blowers. I like the town manager's letter and the approach he was using to point out some of the problems with an outright ban. I think some reasonable restrictions would be okay, but I think a ban would create some serious problems and some financial hardships, financial problems for the town, because leaf blowers certainly save a lot of manpower, and to not have them, you know, maybe we can do what China did and have every citizen in town donate 20 hours of labor and go to the cemetery and rake leaves or something. But the other point I want to make is the financial impact to residents, because the electric leaf blowers aren't really there at that point yet and don't really have the same capacities and as the gas ones do. And one thing that I think is really important is not all gas-powered leaf blowers are the same. The town owns 2 large ride-on blowers that are no more polluting than lawnmowers. They're 4-stroke engines. And there are companies who produce 4-stroke engine leaf blowers that are backpack leaf blowers. Those pollute a lot less. And if any restrictions are taken into consideration, I think that's something you should remember, because if the 2 large high-capacity blowers that the town has can no longer be used, it would be very expensive to replace them, not only in cost, but in the additional man hours to operate them. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Not a resident. Scott Jones, Detective Lieutenant with the Bedford Police, and I'm here to talk about my work as a civil rights officer and also our partnership with the communities in support of a human rights commission. I've been with the Bedford Police for 39 years. I started very young.
5, 6.
And I'm also the co-chair for the Arlington Human Rights Commission. And over the years, you know, we've as a civil rights officer, we've had some hate crimes and stuff that we've had to partner with the community to address and work with different community organizations to really to address instances of hate and bias in the community. And it's not just related to crimes, but it's also bias-related incidents that may relate to housing and to employment and stuff like that. So as the police department liaison, what we do is, you know, we work with our community partners to address hate crimes and to, you know, let the community know that what's happening in the community, and we hear back from the community what's happening, and that, you know, that connection is a valuable conduit for communication between the town and its residents. And so we started years ago, 30 years ago, a response system and voluntary partnership. That was with town manager Rick Reed And that was in 1993. And again, it's those community partnerships, the interfaith communities, it's the schools, the town manager's office, the police department, sharing information on, ways to be more inclusive of our neighbors. And in 1990, and recently in 2000, Governor Baker, I think, also, every community has to have a designated civil rights officer to address incidents of hate and bias. And so I'm just here to support the Human Rights Commission in the town of Bedford. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
I start as sound as you, I guess. Good evening. My name is Shirley Fan Chan, 38 Davis Road, and I have been a resident of Bedford for over 2 decades. Since moving here with my husband and raising 3 boys through the Bedford Public School, we have witnessed the community grow more diverse. As a volunteer member of the RSVP, coordinated by the Bedford Police, led by Scott, and joined by many civic and community members from several interfaith organizations and ethnic groups in Bedford, I have seen the importance of collective actions. Our volunteer group addresses hate crimes and incidents with appropriate responses, drawing on multidisciplinary perspective from the police department, interfaith communities, and local residents. Together, we work to raise awareness of anti-hate measures and promote tolerance in Bedford. However, the group's capacity is limited by a lack of infrastructure, resources, and clear accountability. It is challenging to fully realize our mission without support from the town government. And that's why I strongly support establishing a Human Rights Commission in Bedford. This commission will be a vital step towards fostering a more just, equitable, and inclusive community. It will serve as a catalyst for education, dialogue, and collaborations, empowering residents to respect, tolerate, and embrace the rich diversity that defines our town. By promoting understanding and acceptance among all individuals, regardless of background, the Commission will help bridge differences and strengthen the fabric of our community. Additionally, a Human Rights Commission would guide both the community and the town government in practicing equity and inclusion across all aspects of civic life. Through thoughtful programs, advocacy, and policy recommendations, the commissions can ensure every voice is heard and that the fair treatment becomes a reality for everyone. In doing so, we reaffirm our community to upholding the fundamental rights and the dignity of all residents and making our town a place where everyone truly belongs. Thank you.
Thanks, Shirley. Oh, lovely. That was a timer, but it wasn't mine.
Hello, everyone. Kelly Cornack, 74 South Road. I'm the president of the Parents Diversity Council and also the chair of the Volunteer Coordinating Committee for the town of Bedford. I'll be speaking from my experiences and perspectives with the PDC, but not on behalf of the BCC in this comment. In 2023, the Bedford Public Schools adopted an equity statement. In 2024, the Select Board dusted off a policy on acts of hatred and racism and updated and approved their commitment to values of equity and encouraging an open and free community that is racially, ethnically, and economically diverse. That last bit is taken straight from the policy. But there was talk during those select board discussions of how to measure this, how to ensure these values are being upheld. Without a mechanism in place to openly measure and promote these values, how can we be sure Bedford is moving towards this vision that the select board has laid out? Mike Rosenberg came to this body in January 2025 and proposed a Human Rights Commission. I'm here tonight to advocate that the select board approve this commission. This is the mechanism I believe to uphold this policy. Some might say we already have strong community organizations doing this work, so why do we need a town committee as well? And I have 3 responses that come from my work with the PDC to answer that. Number 1, the PDC is a small, all-volunteer group of parents and caregivers, and these problems are deep and broad, so we need more smart and caring people to work on this together. Number 2, the mission of the PDC is to foster connections and belonging among families in our school district. And while there are often many instances of overlap, we focus first on schools, which leaves a gap with other issues that need to be addressed. Housing access, disability awareness, people who have no connection to the schools, just to name 3, are issues that need an equal focus as well. Number 3, there is power in having as many stakeholders as possible in the room together. My first 2 answers relating to the PDC show that tackling issues from one angle or without the input of others who might be affected can lead to blind spots. In addition, organizations come and go. But if the town develops a structure that includes a variety of stakeholders in the room together, then we are building something that can last and support the town through whatever changes may come in the future. To me, bringing all these voices together in one place to make sure we have a fuller picture of the issues at hand is the most powerful impact of a Human Rights Commission in Bedford. I would actually make one small suggestion to the membership of the HRC and ask for liaisons from the police department, schools, town, and possibly even Commission on Disability, Council on Aging, and Board of Health. At the very least, the HRC should be reaching out to these stakeholders too, because when we all work together, we can move toward a Bedford that will uphold those values of equity and belonging that the Select Board affirmed in 2024.
Anybody on Zoom now?
Yes. Do you mind if I go next?
Not at all, Ann. So sorry. Come on.
I appreciate your accommodation. I'm Ann Karen, 120 North Road. And I'm a board member of the Parents Diversity Council as well, and also co-chair of the Anti-Hate and Bias Task Force for the Bedford Public Schools. While I will be speaking from my experiences and perspectives with the PDC and the task force, I am not speaking on behalf of either entity in this comment. Just over a year ago, a group of parents came publicly to the school committee to voice their concerns around incidents of hate and bias their children had experienced in the Bedford Public Schools. Out of that came the Anti-Hate and Bias Task Force under the purview of the superintendent. The task force was formed with a direct and specific set of things to work on, and we've accomplished a great deal in this first year. One of the strengths of this task force is the wide variety of people who volunteered to do this work together in order to make our schools better, more inclusive, with less hate and bias. We have people who work for Bedford Public Schools, as well as town employees and various committee members. We also have parents and community leaders, such as the PTOs and the PDC. We've strived to have people who have experienced or witnessed hate and bias of all kinds in our school community, and we were specific and intentional with who was at the table. I believe having those who are marginalized, discriminated against, or experiencing hate and bias in the room for these discussions are important to inform our work. I believe it is also important to have strong allies who have seen firsthand their family members, friends, or neighbors being marginalized, discriminated against, or experiencing hate and bias at the table when systems and policies are being discussed. Grounding this work in the real lived experiences of people in our community makes it possible to effect real and a lasting change. So if we're doing such great work on this task force, why do we need a Human Rights Commission in Bedford? Because hate, bias, and discrimination don't happen in the vacuum of a school building. It happens everywhere and anywhere. This is why we need an HRC in Bedford. This HRC, created with specificity in its charge as well as its makeup, will be the best opportunity to work on these issues comprehensively and be one of the entities that helps our town make the policy on acts of hatred and racism and those values that it embodies a reality. We need a group whose sole purpose is to shine a light on hate, bias, and discrimination that happens here and be able to talk about ways to combat it that will work for Bedford. We need a place for community members to find resources and support. We need town leaders and community members together at the table to find solutions that move the needle.
15 seconds.
And we need to do this with a variety of people under the purview of town government, all working towards this common goal: a welcoming, inclusive, and equitable town free of hate, bigotry, bias, and discrimination. The time is now to begin this work with a Bedford Human Rights Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
We have Brian Covell on Zoom.
Mr. Covell, we're all set. Mr. Covell?
Oh, you're muted, Mr. Covell.
Mr. Covell?
Yeah, we're not able to unmute you from our end. It's something that has to be done on your end.
hold on. Anybody else in the room? Mr. Bailey, we'll come back to Mr. Covell if he's ready. Yeah.
Good evening. Mark Bailey, Woodland Road. I'm on the Finance Committee, but not speaking for the Finance Committee. 253 years ago, Town Clerk John Reed opened the first town book and wrote down what Bedford was for, before there was a United States. Putting our values on paper, on the record, mattered then. It matters now. I've heard the concern that the Human Rights Commission would have no teeth. The charge before you is honest about that. It doesn't investigate, it doesn't adjudicate, no trials, no verdicts. When something happens to a neighbor who's on their heels and doesn't know where to turn, its job is to walk them to the right door. That's what we teach our children when they witness someone mistreated. Not fists, not run to a teacher every time. Say, that is not okay. 4 words, no teeth. And every parent in this room knows they matter, because silence is what lets bigotry believe it speaks for all of us. And we know silence isn't working. Last spring, parents told the school committee what Jewish families in Bedford endure: swastikas, Nazi salutes, words I won't repeat in this room. This past March, a swastika appeared near JGMS. Our middle schoolers answered best. Their leaders said incidents like this do not define us. Our response does. The schools met that moment with structure. The whole town deserves the same. A moment ago, you heard Detective Lieutenant Jones say what a valuable conduit this could be. Scott chairs Arlington's commission today. That's where I was born and raised. His mother, Millie Seaborn, helped lead the Human Relations Council Bedford used to have. We had this once. We let it fade. And we learned what that costs. 2 years ago, almost no one was left to organize Martin Luther King Day. Volunteers burn out. Committees endure. That's not my argument. It's Mike Rosenberg's, who stood in this room last January and said some important things are done more effectively through government. So adopt this charge tonight, and adopt it with discipline. Keep it what it is, a town commission about this town, our streets, our neighbors, never a stage for the world's arguments. Give its members defined terms and a clear removal process, and give yourselves a review in 2 years. If it's proven merely performative or become anything Bedford never intended, end it. I don't believe you'll need to. Mike spent hundreds of hours in this room, writing down what this town said and did. If you close your eyes and listen, you can still hear him hammering at that laptop. He died before he could finish making this case to you. The last story he ever wrote was about Scott Jones. Finish Mike's sentence. Put it in the town book. Write it down, once again, what Bedford is for. Thank you.
Mr. Covell's unmuted.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Mr. Covell.
Mr. Covell, you're unmuted and your 3 minutes has started.
Well, I think we're gonna. Any further comments from the room? That was a hard one to beat. That might be the last word. Okay, thank you, everybody. Our second item on the agenda is gonna be a board and committee interview. Susan, that's you? Sorry. Welcome. All right.
Thank you.
We have a nominee for the Council on Aging. There's an open position. I think we all reviewed the materials in our packet. Are there any? Give us a 30-second speech about yourself and why you're amazing. Or 10, or 20. I like your discretion. You know what I mean?
All right, I've lived here in Bedford for over 30 years. I've been very active in the town of Bedford. Been on the Conservation Commission, Community Preservation, land acquisition, started this farmer's market, started a studio here in town, the stained glass studio. And for the last 4 or 5 years, I haven't been as involved in the town as I used to be. Oh, wait a minute. I lead hikes for the COA.
There we go. Now we're
Been
talking.
doing that for 10 years.
Nice.
And I went to a board meeting, met Paul. I was really enthusiastic about what he is doing and want to become a part of that. And this would be a really good time for me to get re-involved with the town. Oh, and by the way, I'm now almost 75, so I have a really good appreciation for what the town can offer and what may be missing in the town for senior citizens.
That was an excellent description of yourself. Any questions? Or
I do
probing
have-
questions, Ms. Malone, go ahead.
I do have some questions. First of all, thank you so much for taking your time to be a part of this. I really enjoyed reading your application. You had mentioned in your application that there are some benefits and challenges in terms of aging in this community. Would you be able to touch on some of them? And then also, are there any particular programs or services that you believe should be prioritized?
Okay. Town offers quite a bit through the COA. There's very good support for the health department. There's good support for the programs that the COA presents for exercise, for courses. They also do a good job with helping people with their taxes. There are a lot of benefits there. There are some things that are still being worked on, and one of the things that I know that they're very anxious to get in place is a second vehicle and driver for hospital visits. And they've been working pretty hard on that. At one point, they even had access to a vehicle, but had to turn it down and wait for maybe next year to get a second vehicle when they have the money available to find a driver. So that's one of the things that they're working hard on. And I'm sure there's other projects that need to be worked on, and I'll see what they need and where they need help.
Mr. Hannigan.
So between your excellent introduction and your very comprehensive application, and Bopa took the one question I was going to have. I don't have any other questions, but thank you for being willing to step up, for describing in good detail what your ideas are. I think the COA will benefit from having you, so I appreciate you volunteering.
Thank you.
Warrenton.
Ditto. Thank you very much.
I also love the farmer's market. It was
So did
it was a
I.
really cool thing.
It was.
Yeah, so thank you for that work, and thank you for wanting to re-engage with the town. We could definitely use you.
Go ahead and make the motion.
I was gonna say that, Paul, go right ahead. Yeah.
Okay. And help me if I mispronounce it.
Okay.
Reed? Is that?
Reed, yep.
Okay, that's not that hard. I move that the select board appoint Susan Grieb to the Council on Aging Board for a term ending June 30, 2028, and authorize the town manager to sign letters on behalf of the select board to this effect.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? 4-0-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Hope I give the spiel. You're better at it.
Oh,
So,
There's more. Wait.
Well, she's been on committee.
Refresh.
first of all, before you can attend a meeting or be participate in the meeting, you should you'll receive a letter from the town to go to the clerk's office to get sworn in. You can't vote or you can participate, but you can't vote unless you get sworn in. And then there'll be information about conflict of interest as well, that there's a test that you need to take, you can't fail. We also advise that you don't do a reply all in an email due to open meeting laws. Sharing information about the Bedford Citizen or the Boston Globe is fine, or scheduling, but sometimes getting into communication can violate that. And last but certainly not least, we encourage everyone to, rotate boards and committee chairs. So, please think of it in a way where you're a member now, but hopefully taking on leadership role in that committee as well.
Okay.
Let's go. All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
The second wonderful person we'll meet tonight is going to be Joseph. Coming up. Mr. Hanson, over to you.
Great. quick introduction. Joe, thank you for joining us. And to the board, we're recommending tonight your ratification of the appointment of Joe Reddy to the Code Enforcement Director position. Joe has been one of our local inspectors here for over a year now. And in that time, he has really excelled in the position. You'll see from his resume that's included in the packet, he has over 15 years of combined supervisory and construction experience in land use and property management. When Chris Lasky was heading towards retirement, the office was working on a way to try to fill the large shoes that he left. Thankfully, he had a few months where he knew he was going to be leaving. Dan Sullivan, another one of our local inspectors who's been with us a long time, wasn't really interested in the permanent position, and Joe was really excelling in the office, and they both wanted to give him some more time to work for the town to see how he continued to progress. So for the last 90 days, Dan Sullivan has been our interim director, and he's been continuing to train Joe during that time, who's received a lot of his certifications that he needs to take the next step. So both Chris and now Dan have said that Dan's been the interim long enough. He'd be happy for Joe to step up into the permanent position if the board is so inclined to ratify that. Dan will continue to stay on. He'd like to go back to his other position as the local inspector, so the team will stay intact and we'll have some continuity in the office. And I guess I'll stop there from an introduction perspective, and if you have any questions for Joe, here he is.
I don't have any question, but I want to thank you for your help in the transition. I totally support this.
Shanigan.
I also want to thank you and the rousing recommendation. I mean, that means a lot. I do have one question though. Is there anything in the department or the way things are enforced you're looking at altering compared to past practices?
It's a great question. Yes, so I look at inspectional services as truly being just that, a place that people can come to us, achieve guidance, understand a pathway to success, but also, meet public safety and the building code. And so, it really should not be a place where, we're an obstacle to people's success, but really a roadmap to, helping them out. So it's really, I've spent the past year, letting the staff know that I care a lot about customer service, letting, the residents know that they can come to us. If someone's trying to properly permit something, then we want to be helpful to them. And also at the same time, knowing that, you've passed many general and zoning bylaws, and that it's really my task to enforce those and to, really uphold it for the citizens that, have spent the time to go to town meeting and put those bylaws in place, so.
Well, thank you. I like that answer. Thank you.
Sean stole my question, so no questions.
Common refrain.
Let's start with him.
Yeah.
I also have no questions. Was the rousing recommendation Mr. Hansen's rousing recommendation? Is that was a rousing recommendation you were referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. I assume this is your recommendation and it is rousing.
Yes.
All right.
I was actually remiss to mention he's received a few resident accolades in the year that he's been here. Some thank you notes from a number of residents, which we always appreciate that. So the customer service item that he just spoke about, it's been reflected in the feedback we've got from residents in our office too.
You'd like happy residents. There's a motion.
I move that the board ratifies the appointment of Joseph Reddy to the position of Code Enforcement Director / Inspector of Buildings as described.
Second.
Moved. Seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? 4-0-0. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jeff.
Keep up the good work. All right.
I look forward to serving you.
All right. From a great guy to an average guy, Josh Smith. Let's go, buddy. Great introduction.
Joe, you get this after a few years. Wow.
Customer service star, Josh Smith.
I told Joe he doesn't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, because we're gonna be here till 10 o'clock, so don't feel obliged to stay.
Let the record reflect Josh is an exceptional human.
Very nice, thank you. Good evening, members of the select board. I'm here to present a contract for the survey, landscape architecture, civil, geotechnical, and electrical engineering services for the athletic field construction at 171 Springs Road. The proposed design includes removal of the existing baseball field that's there currently, leveling and grading of the existing soccer field or multipurpose field that's there now. The end result of this, there it is. The end result of this project would end up being 2 grass fields, multipurpose grass fields. Additional work will include parking lot, up to 40 spots. Currently, there's not much parking there now, but the design includes ample parking. Utility infrastructure and sidewalk and driveway improvements. Proposed construction would take place as proposed in the following year in FY '28. As far as funding goes, $108,500 was allocated at annual town meeting 26 in March via community preservation. This design project is planned to be conducted over the next 6 months from July to December. We are recommending that the select board approve the contract with Weston and Sampson Engineers. And with that said, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Ms. Malone.
Just to confirm, it clearly says here, but I'm just gonna confirm anyways, that this is just a design phase.
Just for the design.
Yep,
Yeah,
okay.
construction would follow in the next
Got it,
fiscal
yep.
year and be voted on the following town meeting, but this
Yep.
is just
Yep.
the design and permitting.
Yep, that's all I have.
Mr. Hannigan.
No questions.
Mr. Mortensen.
None.
I have a question. So all those rocks are gonna go.
Yes.
Favorite boulders, and my illegal parking spot's going too.
Yes.
Is there a second small parking lot there in the right corner that you're gonna be digging into? Those, you see what I mean? There's a main part, and then on the far right there, it looks like there are additional parking spots.
That is further on down. That's not part of this project. That is part of the Springsburg Park Master Plan. That's the 9/11 Memorial.
Okay.
Having parking there to visit the site. There's currently
So-
not parking there now.
So my question is actually about how does this, is this independent of that other plan, which you know my thoughts on?
Yes.
Like this is something we're gonna do because the fields we built regardless of what happens farther down the road?
Correct, completely independent. This is essentially phase one of a 5-phase plan. What happens with the next 4 phases is another discussion. This is the front side, Springs Road side.
This is my favorite part of the plan. This one right here, as everyone
I know.
knows. Okay, I have, what?
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
I
I
move
guess I'm
that,
done.
sorry, were you?
No,
I
I'm just
thought
getting
you were
going, we're
gonna
good now,
ask for
cut me
it.
off now, please, yeah.
I move that the select board approve the contract with Weston and Sampson Engineers, Inc. for the Springs Road Athletic Field design in the amount of $108,500 and authorize the town manager to sign on our behalf.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? 4-0-0. Take the money and run.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Appreciate it. See you soon. Next item on the agenda, you're catching up quick, is discussing potential leaf blower regulations. I'll have you lead us in, Mr. Hanson.
Yes, thank you. Let me just pull up this memo. I think I put this before the DPW items because I thought maybe it would be a brief discussion, but now I think maybe it'll be a slightly longer discussion.
Or you might be wrong.
Yeah, who knows?
We're gonna find out.
So I'm not going to read my memo, but I do want to, sorry, I just clicked on the wrong link in my packet here. Give me one moment. Just highlight the few areas that from a staff perspective, we think the board should consider. And again, the history of this, this came up about a year ago at the request of the board. After the board's initial discussion, the Board of Health met, had some additional feedback, which was, again, was read into the record this evening. And there were some unanswered questions. DPW did have some comments at our initial meeting regarding where they were with the technology and the practicality, at least on the large scale, considering the work that they do, which is probably on some of the largest parcels in town. How an outright ban would be difficult for them at this time, and some of the concerns they had about the electrical options, again, if you were to go from no regulations to a full ban. But as you'll see from what other communities have done, and we can talk a little bit about that, there are many options that could be considered. There are some communities that have done a complete ban. That's usually done through a phased-in approach. And there are some communities, such as Greenwich, Connecticut, which I referenced in the memo in your packet, in which is essentially an option throughout several of the options discussed here, to have some type of more reasonable restrictions. I'll just reiterate again that right now we typically enforce leaf blowers under the same regulation as general construction noise and timing, which is probably not a great fit. So at the very least, defining where leaf blowers is and that noise or landscape noise in general compared to construction noise is something that would help us from an enforcement perspective, whether it's health code or the police department. But some of the things that from a staff perspective, we think could be considered in any policy or bylaw. There's the noise issue, there's the health issue, there's the practical enforcement issue, and you heard a great comment earlier about the fact that sometimes a regulation can be a good first step, even if enforcement's difficult. And then what type of exemptions or differences are there going to be? Municipal operations, commercial versus residential, and then seasonal needs. So any policy consideration should probably, you should probably think about those 5 things. And so while we don't have a specific draft for you here this evening, the purpose of our memo was to try to outline all of the issues that we've heard brought up and sort of categorize some options for you so you can give us sort of your feel or gut check about where you would like to see this develop. If you say you really like, limiting time periods, or you want to focus more on location or number of leaf blowers, that type of general feedback is all we would need to then go craft something to bring back to you for consideration. So hopefully this gives you enough sort of options to consider, and I'm happy to take any feedback the board has on which direction you would like us to go as far as drafting something.
Great, that's great framing. In our memo, you do see the 6 considerations. They might be looking for us to give you some guidance or our preferences on which direction to focus the policy on that you would develop for us. So with that in mind, Bopa, any suggestions or feedback or?
So, it seems, I appreciate a lot of information here and all of the potential options, and it seems like from what I gathered, could be wrong, that in terms of researching other towns, is that option 5 is kind of like the phase approach, even though I really appreciate all of the public comments from others out front about like a ban. I feel like it's more reasonable to like have a phase. And I'm wondering though, within if, so I do like option 5 the best. And I wonder in terms of, unless my eyesight is bad and I can't see it, in terms of enforcement, how would you suggest for that type of enforcement? Is it like, again, it might be there and I'm just missing it.
No, it's not yet. You didn't miss that. That was sort of one of the items for discussion. I guess one is to make sure we're all aware of sort of the practicality or difficulty of the enforcement. My understanding is it could be written in a few different ways. If it was similar to the noise and the commercial, what we use for commercial construction, that's typically handled by sort of a combination of the code department and the health department. Early hours is handled by code. Noise, I don't want to get this wrong, I think is handled by health, but only one of the departments has the actual noise meter. So they coordinate and work together on that. So we'll figure out in the final recommendations exactly which department we want to write up, but it would likely be essentially a civil ticket like we would give for any other violation of the bylaw. We would just have to identify, depending on how the regulation is written, which department it makes the most sense to enforce it, if I explained that correctly. But it would be one of those 3, either police, probably not likely in this case, probably more so code, or health would be the most likely.
And I'm not sure if like this is something that again, just doing some research, some towns actually, instead of having police and inspectors patrolling, they do a complaint base.
Yeah.
So just in case if that's an option that you take initially.
That's a great point. I think there was maybe some talk about this the first time it came up, that how are you going to enforce something like this? And I think the same goes for any of our bylaws, that when it comes to policing in certain high crash areas, for example, we do what's called like proactive patrols and things like that. They target areas. Typically for bylaw violations, 99% of the time, it's reactive. Somebody makes a mistake, somebody sees it, tells us, and then we go and correct the behavior. By law, infractions are not the type of thing that we would direct the code office or the police department to say, go look for somebody with a leaf blower this weekend. We're gonna assign an officer to do that. It's just, that would not be a good use of our time. But certainly if somebody calls and says, every Sunday morning at 5 a.m., my neighbor starts up their leaf blower, we could then assign someone to go, inspect it. So it would be after the fact, most likely.
Great, Mr. Hannigan.
Well, thanks to everybody for their comments. I know there's a lot of viewpoints on this, and outside of this meeting, of course, I've heard a lot of viewpoints on this because it really does affect people. Certainly on one hand, people want to be able to manage their yards the way they want to. On the other hand, people want to live in a healthy neighborhood, which also doesn't involve like health and particulates, but noise pollution as well. I like the approach that you're suggested, Matt, with the hours, the seasons, because it seems like there's a lot of levers that we can pull to really, further goals in a way that aren't so disruptive to things right now. And I'm also very aware that it's not us that makes the decision, it's town meeting. So we're gonna propose something that sounds like for a fall town meeting, but the town has to go for it. So I think the option 5, you hit on a lot of things where we create a spring and fall cleanup season, we adapt the hours, we make a distinction between commercial and residential, gas powered, and also gas powered and electric. A couple people mentioned the difference between 2-stroke and 4-stroke, and I think that's legitimate. So David, I can't quite see you, but if the DPW isn't ready for electric yet, I would push to, replace your 2-stroke with 4 strokes to, kind of further the issue. I think that just going along the lines of kind of fleshing out option 5, I think would be a good approach to take to the town.
Probably my recommendation too.
Morrison.
I agree with everything everyone said. Sean and.
You have the easiest job today.
Well, I don't need to belabor it, and thank you for everyone's opinions. I don't want an outright ban at all, but I think there's a middle road we can have.
I like a lot of what I'm hearing. All I will offer is I'm really interested in the landscape noise versus construction noise thing which you named, which we haven't really addressed broadly. That topic interests me a great deal because there's a lot of landscaping noise beyond blowers, including mowers at 7 o'clock in commercial properties across the street from residences, which is just as disruptive as a leaf blower. So let's save that topic for additional discussion after this. I think what my colleague has said is actually wonderful, and I'm looking forward to seeing the next iteration. And, we can chat about it some more if you want, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
No, I think I have enough feedback. That was great, and I actually really liked hearing about the 4-stroke as well. I wasn't personally aware of those being in backpack form now as well, so that's something that we'll talk about internally to see if that can be a footnote in here in some way.
There's a second big soccer fan here. It's David Manugian, DPW director.
Oh, and he's up.
He's coming up next, so come on up, sir. Keep it tight. At least a second big soccer fan.
He was there in case we had any more DPW specific questions, but I think we're gonna take it offline. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I have before you 2 contracts tonight. We did have a third item, tree regulation discussion with Bark. Bark has requested that we postpone that item. There was one late change that they wanted a little more time to review before they came before the board.
Approved.
The 2 contracts are for Weston and Sampson, a contract amendment regarding the salt shed at 108 Carlisle Road. There is a typo in that contract. The very careful eyes of Autumn caught that. The motion should mention a request for $78,800. And this is for an amendment to the salt shed construction at 108 Carlisle Road. As everybody knows, that's our seasonal storage facility. Although we did a subsurface investigation, we did not find any contaminants at the time. Once construction started, we did find asbestos under the building location. And so that put a stop to the work until we could properly investigate. We've been working with DEP to determine how we can move forward through both a non-traditional work plan, that in other words, how we deal with asbestos to build what we want to build, and then what they call a partial closure use plan, which gives us guidance how we can use that entire facility moving forward. So we have some information now, we have a plan. To move forward, we will need some additional engineering work, and then we're getting cost estimates for additional construction work. Once we have all those numbers, we're working closely with facilities department to figure out the most cost-effective way to move forward. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Salt shed asbestos questions, Ms. Malone.
I hate asbestos.
As you should, as we all should. Wow, okay. Strong
I've been
feedback.
dealing with that, but yeah, no, I don't have any questions.
Strong feedback for the asbestos.
Yes.
I share your concern.
Okay.
Mr.
I'm
Hannigan.
also opposed to asbestos.
Yeah.
Take a motion on, we're all.
I have no other questions.
Mr. Morrison.
It's pretty straightforward.
And I get, had we known that there was asbestos, we would have done the project anyway, I assume, the salt shed?
I'm sorry. what-
We would have done the project anyway?
We do need a new salt shed.
Yeah.
So really, had we known, we may have moved it or shifted it or done something slightly different, but the project
Still needed to be done. Okay, that's it.
Is it from the structure or just like it was in the soil? You have no idea.
That site has been used for disposal of a lot of stuff. Sure. Yeah.
Including asbestos, apparently. Okay, again, there's a typo in the motion. The correct amount is 78,800. So that motion is ready.
All right, so I move that the select board approve the contract amendment with Weston and Sampson in the amount of $78,800 as described in the Public Works memo dated July 1st, 2026, and authorize the town manager to sign on its behalf.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? 4-0-0.
Thank you. Next contract is with Woodard and Curran. It's for conversion assistance from our current work order software to a new software, OpenGov, which will allow us to not only do work orders within DPW, but also capital planning. So basically, the company that we've been working with for the last 10 years or so is sunsetting. It's been purchased by another company. And so we've been looking to migrate to another platform. This platform was chosen through a review of, I think, 9 different companies. We had a grant from the state to fund a portion of it, specifically related to stormwater. We liked their product, and so now we're trying to migrate other parts of our system over to it. We see some real opportunities here for some savings in the future. For example, we currently contract with an engineering firm to do our pavement management program. This software will allow us to integrate directly with the LiDAR, so you might see the Google car out there spinning the roads to get information. We'll be able to do that. We don't have pictures, but it'll give us the type of information that'll allow us to do our own pavement management using AI. So we're going to be able to take that cost out of our annual costs and integrate it through this software. So there's some interesting opportunities out there with the new technology, and we want to try to take advantage of it. This contract here will help us in the migration of all our data from the old system into the new system. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So, yes, I do have a question. How long will this transition take, and also like how will it affect staff and residents, if any?
Sure, so it's transition from our current software to our new. We're hoping the whole project will take 9 to 12 months. And it should be seamless for residents, because it's really how we document information coming in internally and then share it as far as administering work. When I say a work order request, say someone calls and says there's a pothole. So we would be just changing how we do it now to this new system. But the new system then tracks all those potholes and can provide us more detailed information as we do our pavement program about the history of potholes on a road or the quantity, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
So I am curious about the funding source, because there's 5 different accounts. Could you explain why it's divided like that and how you chose the amounts?
So the contract itself broke down kind of the separate efforts, if you will, for the 5 different tasks: water and sewer, highway, fleet mechanical, grounds, cemetery, and trash recycling. And so what we tried to do was to find funding specific to those tasks related to different departments within Public Works.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry if I could, Mr. Just to, be really clear, each of these, if you consider them sort of a department, are different modules within the system that are gonna require their own setup. So it's sort of very appropriate to find funding specific to them, because some communities pick 1, 2, 3, many more of these different pieces. So we chose a lot of them because we have a robust DPW, and this will allow us to have real make data-driven decisions throughout all these departments. But each of these, categories is pretty specific, and there's a lot of work that has to go into mapping the information we have, like in the sewer department files currently, into the new system to make sure we have consistent data. And so it's like kind of a different job because it's different data we have in each of these departments currently that we have to make sure is correctly all under like the one roof in the new system as well. Makes sense.
Thank you.
Is this a one-time cost, and are there any other associated costs?
This is a one-time cost, there shouldn't be any other. The ongoing cost will be the software as a service annual subscription cost.
Thank you.
So the grant is paying for the stormwater piece, and we're footing the bill for the rest.
Correct.
Amazing. How much is the stormwater piece?
Oh, good question.
60,000-ish, I
I
think.
think it was around 60,000.
Yeah.
That's 14.
Roughly, yeah.
Right.
Excellent. Big grant.
You like that, Scott? You're smiling. All right. Is there a motion out there?
I move that the select board approve the contract with Woodward and Curran in the amount of $152,000 as described in the Public Works memo dated July 1st, 2026, and authorize the town manager to sign on its behalf.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Or abstentions? 4-0-0. Thank you. Again.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, David.
Next item on the agenda, Mr. Kalantari.
Yeah, thank you. Sit here or?
Please do.
Yeah, and you're gonna advance the slide?
Yes, tell me when.
Sure, thank you very much. First, I want to thank the select board to allow me to present at this meeting. I know I have limited time. For the record, Robert Kalantari, Donovan Drive, Bedford. I lived in town since 1990, raised my 3 children here. I still live in town, of course, and I love this town. I care about the environment tremendously. I'm an electrical engineer by degree. My entire career has been working with nuclear power plants to address safety issues. I just retired from a consulting company as the CEO of the company. I worked for them for 41.5 years. With that, I want to share my view of a concern I have with premature electrifying residential and commercial energy uses. With that, we go to the first slide. So this is a simple thing. I'm going to keep it very non-technical as much as I can. How do we generate electricity? By a large generator, we have to spin the generator. Generator is connected to a turbine. Turbine turns by steam power or hydro or wind power. Steam can be produced by fossil fuel or nuclear reaction. Next slide, please. So the option is burn oil. We don't do that, thankful, anymore. Coal, we still do it. Natural gas, we do it quite a bit. Or wood or garbage, basically to generate steam, turn the turbine and make electricity. But realize there's some combustion waste gases we send to atmosphere, but that's the reality. Ash waste, especially from the coal plants, is a concern. So next one, please. This is just pictorial view of what I just said. Coal, oil, or gas, burn it, make steam, turn the turbine, and turn the generator electricity. Next one, please. Hydro plants, great electricity generation. Dams are built to collect water. Water is collected through reservoir. Then we route the water through a hydro turbine. Turbine turns the generator, we make electricity. We have a couple of big hydros, Hoover Dam and whatsoever. We don't build hydros anymore, but it is a clean energy source. But when we built them, it has its own issues, of course, environmental impact. Next one, please. And wind farms are becoming popular, very long blades, some are over 150 meters, mounted on a tower. They generate power. You have seen wind farms, sometimes you have more than 100. New large units can generate approximately 15 megawatt. That's quite a bit of electricity, but limitations, no wind, no power generation. Of course, environmental impact that some people have concern with noise, killing birds and whatever, but again, that's the reality, that's what we have. I'm not against or for any of these, I'm just giving you a quick view of how we generate electricity. Next one, please. Solar power, electric generation power panel has been increasing. A panel is used to take energy from speeding photons. We all know solar panels are comprised of many smaller units, put it on the roof, parking lots, next to Mass Pike, whatever. And of course, the efficiency depends on location, direction, exposure of sunshine. In Massachusetts, as good as solar power is, it is out of sync with the winter peaking grid region like New England. We only get about 8 hours of sunlight a day near the winters. And of course, when it's dark, there's no power generation. As a result, we are really limited to 6 hours of usable sunlight on winter days when we really need the power to heat our homes. So it's really not good of source for heating our homes in the winter. Again, I am not against solar at all. I am for solar big time, but it's not a solution, and I'll tell you why. This could result in, if you want to have solar, then you need batteries, and that's very costly and all that. You can do it, but your electric bill would go through the roof. Next one, please. Geothermal plants, this is another great source. We are getting into it. There is some capacity out there, about 4 gigawatt, and the hope is we can push it to 60 gigawatt by 2050. It's a great carbon-free electricity. It's becoming popular. Even, they are putting in, like some homeowners, I heard somebody in Concord, Mass is spending $1 million to have a small geothermal plant, which is great. I mean, if they have that money, spend and get.
That's very Concord.
Yeah. Next one, please. And nuclear power plants, this is, again, I'm not going to get technical. Everybody asks, what is a nuclear power plant? Well, what does it do? It just makes steam. Nuclear power plants make steam by splitting atoms. When you split atoms enriched uranium, you make heat. The heat boils the water and creates heat and steam turns the turbine. So instead of burning gas to make steam, we are splitting atoms to make steam. That's the fundamental difference between a nuclear power plant and a fossil plant. So steam is, again, routed through turbine and splits and all that. Just some picture of some nuclear fuel. Each fuel pellet there is equivalent to 1 ton of coal, by the way. That's only 1 centimeter. Next one. So this is two type of reactors. We have pressurized and boiling water. I won't get into it. One is not better than the other one, but this is the existing technology. Of course, there are many new technologies. You've heard about all new technologies out there. And again, I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to keep nuclear as nuclear option. Next one, please. So this is some public misconception about nuclear power. Nuclear waste disposal is an unresolved problem. There's no such a thing as an unresolved issue. It's been kind of political issue. Currently, the spent fuel is stored in the safeguard storage facilities. There are no conceivable threats. In fact, we are trying to build new reactors that can burn the used fuel. Used fuel is slightly used, and you have to refuel every 18 to 2 months or 2 years, and then that becomes useless used fuel. But maybe someday new technology would burn that fuel, and that would be wonderful. Nuclear plants are not safe. They are safe. I mean, I've been into it. I've done safety analysis, especially the plants we have in the U.S. Even people may remember 3 Mile Island accident with the core meltdown. We did, no environmental impact. This is not like Chernobyl. We don't have plants like Chernobyl. Yeah, the Japan Fukushima accident, that was a disaster, and I won't get into it. I can tell you how many mistakes they made to create that issue. But no one was killed from that accident, not 20,000. 20,000 people were killed because of tsunami. Nobody died from radiation. Again, I don't want to get into that, but next one, please. This is just a quick data of countries producing power from nuclear, list of countries, France being on the top. US is less than 20%, unfortunately, because we kind of, I'll tell you later why, we kind of killed the industry. Now we're trying to restart it. So just some data for, again, a country could be a small country like, Armenia is 40%, but the country doesn't need that much power. One nuclear power gives them 40%. US has about 100 units, and it's only 18% of our power. Next one, please. Again, the goal is to reduce carbon emission and affordability. Premature move to try electrified residential and commercial energy uses will have the exact opposite. it will increase carbon emissions, and I tell you why. We need to be careful with our mandates when it comes to energy policies. I'm 100% in support of electric heat, electric cars, rechargeable batteries, anything we can, but the source has to be clean, and currently it's not. We currently don't have the clean power generation capacity to achieve this goal. We can be more efficiently and cleanly achieve our goal by using things like natural gas. I don't work for a gas company. I don't promote gas, but unfortunately, that's the option we have for home heating. And if you go to the next page, I'll tell you why. Putting more demand on the grid, like heating our homes with electricity, this approach will force the utilities to build new gas power plants. There is no alternative today in next 5 years or 10 years. So gas plants are fast to build. 18 months, you can build 1,000 megawatt. Nuclear plants takes 15 years, 10 times more money. Solar and wind cannot keep up with the demand. Heating homes with electric power is generated by fossil fuel, like natural gas, is not the solution. So we are, and I tell you why, next slide. So net zero by 2050. Studies show we need 550 to 750 gigawatt of additional clean energy. This means 400 new nuclear power plants. Impossible to build this many units. Solar and wind cannot keep up. They would be, far from meeting the demand. So we need to start building the infrastructure, including wind, solar, geothermal, and nuclear. Delaying putting additional demand on the grid until the grid is ready. We don't have the grid to supply clean power yet, but then we are putting the demand on that. Then we need to assess the progress every 5 to 10 years and adjust the net zero goals accordingly. Town level, state level, federal level. Next one, please. So this is a current status. US production of electricity, 43% natural gas, 18 from nuclear, 16 from coal, wind, solar, small. Yeah, it is increasing, but they are not base load. That's the issue, that we have. Base load is something 24/7, 365, which is a, natural gas plant or nuclear or a coal plant. Unfortunately, wind and solar are not. Hydro is close and whatnot. Next one, please. In Massachusetts, this is the reality. 64% of our power comes from natural gas, 25% solar, 11 others. We had a nuclear power plant, Pilgrim, which is where I started my career in 1979, was providing 60% of clean energy at the time it was shut down in 2019. It wasn't even a big plant. It was only 700 megawatts. Next one, please. So the premature electrifying the residential use is not a good idea. Again, don't have the capacity. This is the third bullet is important. Generating electricity by gas on average is 38% efficient. The rest goes to the ocean, goes to the atmosphere. You're using gas, but you get only 38% electricity. Then you bring that to your home to heat your home. At the same time, you can put a gas boiler, a brand new ones at 98% efficient gas boiler in your house, and the efficiency is 98% versus 38. Maybe combined cycles you can push to 50. Again, I don't want to get technical, but this is the reality. Most people don't realize it. They think electricity coming out of the wall is clean, but it's not. It's only clean if you generate from the clean sources. But right now, 64% is. Now putting more demand, what is that going to do? We cannot keep up with the demand by solar and wind. Impossible. So that's the issue. So next one, please. So solar and wind generation would help, but they alone would fall from the demand, fall short of the demand. We are not building hydro plants anymore. That's a fact. So the only other option is to build nuclear power plants. And yes, there is a huge push to start building. It was during Biden administration. The new administration followed it. Huge bipartisan support for that. A study by DOE says we need 380 new reactors. I'm talking big reactors. And this study did not fully account for all the needs for hungry AI and data centers. So the power demand is enormous right now. So next one, please. So how fast can we build a nuclear power plant? Not fast. It would be impossible to build this many units in the next 20, 40 years. Many reasons for that. We really killed the industry. Years ago, we said we don't want nuclear anymore. We don't have the resources to build these units. We only built 2 of them in the last 30 years. Took 15 years, $32 billion, 3 times the original budget. But now there's a huge effort and huge support. So We are moving, but it's not gonna be there in 25 years. It's not gonna be there, I think, in 50 years. So it's gonna take time. We have to be patient. Next one, please. Oh, even in Massachusetts, our governor, Maura Healey, recognizes this. She has a big, group of, from UMass Lowell, which they have a reactor, looking into this. They are pushing to have 10 gigawatt of nuclear power. 10 gigawatt is like 10 large units. Great initiative, but it takes several decades with enormous effort and money to build this many units. So again, as I said, we killed the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Plant that was only 700 megawatt in 2019. So again, at the state level, we realized New York, same thing. They banned it, now they want it. Massachusetts, we banned it, now we want it. Next one, please. So my advice, we need to be smart and realistic. We can't rush into this. I educate the public government. We must, evaluate every decision carefully. Start building the infrastructure and monitor the progress. Form a committee, work with federal, state level. So again, be patient. Rushing into this would backfire. If you really, really, really care about the environment, what we are doing is going to have the reverse effect, by pushing towns and even city of Boston. 2025 after, you cannot build new construction and heat it with gas. You have to be electric. But electric is 38% efficient. When 98% efficiency, you can get it at the local, gas boiler or furnace. So again, people don't think, because everybody thinks electric is clean. It's not yet. It's going to be clean someday, but it's kind of few years down the road. My guess is, 50 years down the road. So slowly we need to assess it and do it. So next one, please. We all have the same goal, decarbonization. I'm not against wind or solar. I'm not against heating our homes with electric power. I'm not against cooking with electric power. As an electrical engineer, as a kid, I built my own little electric car when I was like 12 years old. It went only like half a kilometer, but it worked with the car battery. So I'm not against driving electric cars or any of this, but what I'm against is premature to move and electrify residential commercial use. So it will take, I think, again, I'm repeating myself. If we do that, you're going to see more carbon efficient. You're going to affect my grandchildren, which I love them, and the environment. Next one, please. These are some of the resources, NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, NEI, and DOE and whatnot. This presentation was in the package. Please use it. I think that's it. Thank you for listening to me. I hope we can all think rationally. And honestly, I would like, again, I don't care. I don't work for the gas company, but telling me if I build a house in Bedford or Concord or whatever that they banned it and not use gas, it is gonna have the opposite effect. Can we reverse it? I hope we can. Think about it. Be rational. Let's fix the problem that we created. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Robert. Reactions, questions, comments?
Thank you.
Ms. Malone. That was the whole semester of information in
Yeah.
12 minutes. Mr. Hannigan.
Thank you for coming and sharing your views.
I have one question. I think I saw on a slide there we're at 25, did I see a 25% number associated with solar?
In Massachusetts?
Yeah.
I think maybe, yeah.
So, I don't know when we were at 0, but we're at 25% now. If I were like super hopeful, would I say, oh, that curve is gonna keep
Right.
going?
The problem is, as I said, is the base load. Solar power generates only power when you need it. Yeah, you can put storage and store it and all that, but it's not the base load. You need base loads to carry the grid. You
Yep.
can't go 100% solar in Massachusetts. Maybe if you're a country of 30,000 somewhere remote and you don't have manufacturing. So solar is increasing, but it's not part of your base load. It's only temporary, and especially, as I said, in the winter, you don't have it. So if you go to 50% or 100%, that's not the solution.
So, but if we were to go to 50%, would that mean then, oh, well, then we can cut back on, whatever, energy is created through either coal or natural gas?
See, that's the
So
problem.
is it somewhat of a help, or?
It is on, the problem is with these big units, you cannot turn them up and down, especially nuclear plants, even gas plants. They have to run 24/7.
Yes.
So you can, this plant is generating 500, kilowatt or megawatt, and solar is giving, okay, reduce the power. it's gonna take days for you to reduce that power. It's not, the grid has to be stable. I mean, the country is kind of connected together, so they talk to each other, who needs to generate. So again, go for solar, push the solar. It is helping, but it's not the sole solution.
That was my
That's it, yeah.
uneducated reflex
No,
of.
that's because the numbers are telling you that, but it's not. And again, if you have place, if you get, good sunshine and all that, go for it. If you have the space, if you don't have trees like I do, I mean, I did a study. I can't put it on the top of my house because it's not a good location. In California, my brother-in-law, he works for Cal Edison. He put it on his house. He gets plenty of power. He put batteries, and he worked in a nuclear power plant. So I'm not against solar or anything, but right now, especially where we are in New England, winter months, solar is not our solution. You need steady power coming from mainly natural gas or nuclear, which we don't have it. So that's the issue. If somebody wants to get fancy and put lots of batteries in their basement and store the power, they may be able to make it, but that's their option. So
Okay, one other question. You mentioned Concord and $1 million number and that's gotta be something a little bit, but that's not like a single homeowner, just he.
it is a single homeowner in Concord, actually. It was
That's why I
crazy.
said it's very Concord.
Okay, because I was saying that, like, I'm researching that for my own house, and I'm
No,
like,
it was brought up
it's like
during
40
ZBA
grand, I
meeting.
think.
Yeah, one of the ZBA members, he's an architect. They said the homeowner wants.
It's gotta have a data center in there, something, oh my lord. Okay, Bob, this was super helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks.
Hold on, I'm kind
Yeah,
of
please, yeah.
what's that? So the 18% for the US, what was the historic high as a percentage of nuclear?
We were only at 20 at the most. The problem is we shut down number of units.
Sure.
In last 7 or 8 years, shut down about 10 units. The 2 units that were gonna go shut down in California called Diablo Canyon, huge units. They were in the verge of shutting down. 2025 done deal, and then with everything else happened, Governor Newsom, who was the architect of shutting down those plants when he was in charge of, not governor, but some commission, he came and begged the utility, gave them $1.8 billion to save those plants. 1.8 billion public money to save, because they realized. Same thing here. I mean, years ago, okay, we shut down Pilgrim. Was it the best plant? It's a boiling water reactor plant. It was good. Economically, it didn't make sense because we didn't have any incentives. Vermont Yankee was another one. The only plants we have in New England running is the one at Seabrook, New Hampshire, 2 units at Millstone 2 and 3. Everything else is dead. So
Dan, if I may, one more comment.
You may, Ms. Morrison, you may.
I understand the asterisks you put by 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl, and I always have a hard time with it,
Fukushima.
Thank you. Is, the one thing, one other thing that concerns me is in Ukraine,
Yes.
Russians holding hostage.
Zaporizhzhia plant, I worked on that plant.
Yeah,
I
and I'm
did
like,
a study on that
gee whiz, that's just, that's a concern. I don't know if we're not gonna solve this, but it's just, that scares the hell out of me.
It's a huge site, 6 units of huge, that's the biggest plant in the world because
Yeah.
there are 6 units next to each other. No, I mean, these plants, you can't trash them because the environmental impact is huge. Whether Russia, I mean, nobody's gonna bomb these plants and all that because it's gonna affect their own country because the outfall. When Chernobyl happened, Russia was saying nothing happened, then we detected the stuff here, we said something happened, we're getting
Yeah.
stuff coming. So we detected that, but Chernobyl was a disaster. Those are graphite-cooled reactors, very bad design. I worked on those too. Again, I'm not promoting, but nuclear versus the other. I'm saying right now that's the only option.
I got
If I may say, I mean, I had a speaker, our Senator Barrett at American Nuclear Society local chapter a couple of years ago, and he was initially against nuclear, but he kind of, he's changed, and he said, I'm for it. And I said, what changed your mind? He says, well, I knew, I was concerned about nuclear waste. I call, the spent fuel. But now I know it's a 400,000 year issue. And if I don't solve it today, I'll solve it 100 years later. That was a smart thing he said. So he realized, he says, okay, we have to do something with spent fuel. DOE had an obligation, they didn't do it, we talked about it. So the nuclear fuel, the used fuel is there. It's an issue, and it's gonna be there for next 400,000 years. Now, hopefully in 10, 20, 30 years, we can use that fuel to generate electricity because we are working on that. That used fuel is slightly used, there's a lot of energy left in that. So again, people like Senator Barrett are realizing and changing their position. But having said that, we cannot build these plants fast enough. There's no way we can build 400 units. We cannot even build 40 units in the next 25 years. So that's where we are.
Thank you again.
So when you use this, because I didn't realize you could use spent fuel, does that make it less dangerous after you use it?
Well, it's a technology is not there. Yeah. The spent fuel, one thing we did during Carter, we said we are not going to reprocess the fuel. That was a decision made because reprocessing has its own drawbacks. Okay, when you reprocess, it's a nasty process. You gain something, then you create some other mess, and again. So in US, we don't reprocess spent fuel. We used to store it on site in a spent fuel, just like a swimming pool. Now we put them in a storage casks, and they are sitting on site. They are very safe, nothing can happen, tested. You can hit them with rockets, and they are just sitting there. So the spent fuel is still there, but we don't have a solution. We were supposed to bury them in Yucca Mountain, but after spending $20 billion building it, we cannot license it. That's again another political issue. But that's where we are. Now, the hope is the new reactors are working to use the spent fuel to get more energy out of it. And if we do that, that would be great because we're addressing two problems, the spent fuel and getting power from that. So again, this is, technical, but again, I try to keep it at a level so people understand. Again, I'm passionate. I care about the environment. Yes, I do still want to use my gas blower because I have a big house. And this, as soon as, I love the regulations you want to put in there, I don't mind using it, 2 hours a day, whatever it takes to help the neighbors and all that. I'm not a gas, in love with gas or anything. We got to be practical. Same thing here. We have to be practical, and solar isn't going to solve our problem. It's, at least for now. So these are important numbers. So,
Robert, thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Comment?
Not public comment, not public hearing. Sorry, Mr. Hagan. Next item on the agenda is going to be the Human Rights Commission.
So,
Mr. Hanson, you want to introduce this for us?
I'll just say since the first discussion we had on this, I think BOPA went and did some homework to bring some ideas back to the board. So I really would like to just turn it over to BOPA.
Yeah, so first of all, Mr. Chair, I appreciate putting this back on the agenda. So as you may recall, back in 2025, when this came back up, a few of you had some questions in terms of what this commission would actually do, and would they be investigating or enforcing discrimination complaints? And basically, I want to thank Kelly Koronak and Lieutenant Detective Scott Jones, because based on that conversation, Kelly and I actually spoke to Lieutenant Jones as he had shared earlier. He is part of the Human Rights Commission in Arlington, and they have a very robust commission there, and we learn a lot about what they do. And Kelly actually also talked to Lexington, the chair of that commission as well. And basically, we have and obviously they're here tonight, which I appreciate them being here. And if you guys have any questions, I would appreciate it, Mr. Chair, if they can help to answer questions. But in terms of what I learned is basically that the commissions is not an enforcing agency, or they're not there to investigate like complaints or replace the role of the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination. Instead, as you heard tonight, most of the speakers here, they were talking about education, advising local government, connecting residents with resources, fostering dialogue, and help communities respond thoughtfully and constructively when issues arise. And I just want to remind everyone, I know that most of you or all of you actually weren't on the board yet back in 2020. For those of you that may recall, back in 2020, Bedford was part of one of the 6 communities chosen to be a part of the REMAP initiative. And basically through that work, we took a hard look on how, our town can become a more welcoming, equitable, and inclusive community, and how we can respond to acts of hatred or bias that occur. And as you heard from some of the speakers as well, that as a result of that, in 2024, we updated our policy on acts of hatred and racism, and that policy obviously clearly articulated our values and reaffirmed our commitment to the community. And I was really happy when Mike Rosenberg came in to introduce this commission to us. And for me, I feel like this is a natural step in the work that we begin with REMAP and our policy on the hatred and racism, and that's an important statement of value. And but I do believe that policy alone that can't build relationship, educate the community, or create opportunities for dialogue. So I think this is where this commission would live. It would embody our mission that we've already adopted and demonstrated our commitment to inclusion. And so I think it's a time where I feel like, we've been at this since 2020, and we have talked about this for a number of years now. And I think that, I just want to bring this back as a discussion, and I don't know if we're ready to vote or anything like that, but I feel like it would be great if you have other questions, because Scott and Kelly are in the room, that, I would appreciate it if they can help answer as well. And I would say that, in your packet, there's different communities, they have different charge and what they do. And I feel like in learning from Arlington, as I shared earlier, they have a robust, I really admire that, but I think that's, where for Bedford, because of where we are, I would suggest looking more into the Lexington type model. And I don't think the Lexington is part of your packet, but and I do agree with what Kelly had mentioned as well in terms of this draft. If we were to use this, if we were to vote on it, and it would go that way, that the charge would include some of the other committees as well. So I'll stop there and see what,
All right, Mr. Hannigan, reactions, comments?
Yeah, so I'm definitely in favor of this. I think it is very important, we have laws on the books against discrimination. But it's also very important to realize that a lot of times when people have experienced discrimination, there's a certain loneliness, there's a certain, maybe we don't know where to go. And this would help with that. It would help people feel like they're not alone. It would help connect people to resources. So, I really appreciate your efforts, BOPA, in researching it, your efforts, Detective Lieutenant Jones, and the Parents Diversity Council. I think it would be a big plus for the community. And I do generally like the draft charge, but I do want to have somewhere in the membership that it's, not just the citizens serving on it, but representatives from the police and other entities as well. So I'm hoping this moves forward.
Mr. Morrison.
It was interesting, all the comments we got tonight. I go back to what I said last time we spoke about it, which is if we have folks who've broken the law, I think they should be prosecuted. And I think the avenue for that is the police, and then I suppose I don't know the other panoply of enforcement mechanisms, but I think that would likely include the Mass Commission Against Discrimination, which I think is the most proper venue for governmental action, right? So now we go to, well, if someone's been wronged in a way that, let's just assume we all agree has been wronged, because there can certainly be some universal wrongs that have occurred that don't rise to the level of an illegal action that you can call the police, or that the town manager can fire an employee over, whatever it is. It's not enforceable in that way. I am sympathetic to, there should be, it would be nice to have someone whose job it is to listen to them, maybe give some advice about, talk to the folks at the Mass Commission Against Discrimination, that they might have something that they can enforce. By the way, I'm not sure I have a super cogent point here. There's a little bit of stream of consciousness. But I would say that I'm curious whether or not BOPA, their meetings, like where do the meetings occur now for people who are interested in this? There's the like Kelly, you mentioned you're on the PDC, Parents Diversity Council. Where do they meet? How often? Like, I think it's very fair that, the town doesn't charge, I don't think, for, using town, meeting rooms for them to meet. I don't see any problem with that sort of imprimatur.
Yeah, so basically, hopefully I'm answering this question, Paul. This would be a town committee or an ad hoc.
I get that, but
town.
I'm talking current state, like Parents Diversity Council, are they, they're not a chartered organization, but
We're
you
a
guys.
nonprofit, we're a 501c3.
Right,
With a very specific mission at looking at families, parents and caregivers in the schools.
Yep.
So that was my point in public comment, that there are so many things that are part of the policy against hatred and bigotry that are outside of our purview that may not be being addressed in a holistic way. And it seems like the Human Rights Commission would be a way to address that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we certainly welcome folks at our meetings, we're on Zoom, but we are a nonprofit, so it's a totally different
Yeah,
set
no,
of
I
structure.
get that. And I guess just one other problem with it I have is having a, governmental organized human rights commission is that we put 7 people on and they have to be well trained, right? And we have many things we need to accomplish in the town. I'm not so sure we can competently train and stand by, yes, these are the 7 people we should direct you to. I think it could be great, or I think it could be not so great.
Well, I think because on that membership, it would have town officials or committees as well.
Yeah.
These, and I think this would be the type of committee that you would want various people that are connected to town and actually know. I don't think you need to be trained in addressing these issues, but what I think you need to be is a connector where you know town departments and you know the people, where when these complaints come in, you basically just help to direct them. You're not there to, resolve that. I think it's just another mean or another avenue to help educate people to go to these departments, or basically you're just, responding to, not responding, you're just taking that information to these folks and then they help to address that issue.
Helpful. So I don't need to belabor it. I'm not sure I was super articulate with them, but at this juncture, I'd be a no when setting up a separate committee that's government imprimatur.
Thank you, Paul. I mean, Terrence is not here, and I feel very uncomfortable having this discussion and a vote without Terrence. I'll say what I think, and then probably continue the conversation because there's something to review here, which we should consider. I think really a first reading of the revision. The Lexington model is a heavy lift for a town like Bedford. 7 members, 3 staff, bi-weekly meetings. No, like Bedford cannot bear that burden. We are hold on. We're over committed. We are underfilled on the committees, and our staff is taxed. So I'm concerned about, like, I will never say we need to do it like Concord, or like we need to do it the way that Bedford should do it. Bedford should not do it the way that Lexington is doing it. Yeah. Full stop. So I really, the people in this room who commented are some of my dear friends who I trust. And I almost cried, Mark, at your comment, because it really carries weight with me, right? So I have a lot of concerns, but the case is very clear that I think we need to do something. I don't know where the marriage is from this revision to what I'd be comfortable with, but 7's a lot. It can't be like Lexington. I think we need to do something. I'm wary of volunteer fatigue and taking work away from functioning committees and nonprofits. And what I don't want, and this is my fear, like, is for this committee to get caught in the crosshairs of adjudicating really complicated political and ethical dilemmas, which take place around the world, which happens in other communities. In other communities, they embrace the controversy and they want to weigh in on, well, here's how we feel about this complicated geopolitical issue. This is like the worst case scenario for me. I don't think it would happen because you people I trust. I want to be specific on the scope, specific on the mandate. What Scott said, what Kelly said, what Mark said is exactly right. It's who we want to be. So I want to be like that. I want this committee to behave like that. I don't think this is quite there yet, and I want to sharpen it a little bit. So that's my comment for this evening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I apologize about this. When I talked about Lexington, all I meant, I would agree with you that it's not a bi-weekly meeting. I actually don't, I wouldn't go there either. But I think for me, I was only talking about Arlington and Lexington because of the fact that Arlington actually has a dedicated staff for this, and they have a budget, where Lexington actually doesn't have a budget, and a lot of what they do is actually pro bono, and it's a regular, I thought it was a monthly meeting, actually, not a bi-weekly. Maybe I misread that. I apologize.
I pulled it just to make sure.
I actually,
It is a monthly meeting, but they have a second meeting on the books if they don't get through their agenda.
Got it.
The first meeting, so Dan is right, but you're also right, sort of.
Okay, I apologize because I thought I was reading it that way, and I'm also like shocked by the 2 weeks thing. So I actually didn't know the second part. But mainly it was more of the budget, because I know we're all concerned about budget and going forward, and this is something that wouldn't, if you're looking at other community may have the budget for it, and that's not what we're proposing, and that's all I'm really trying to get at.
So I'm not sure what we're going to say here, other than I think the draft could use some. I do think 7. Are there 7 capable volunteers that fit these criteria? Like, I'm sure they're already on other committees. I'm certain there are other committees in town and currently working. So I also want to cannibalize the good work which is already happening. So I think we're getting there with this conversation. I think what we have here is not quite where I want it to be. And Terrence's not here to weigh in, so I'm not gonna ask for any motions this evening, but I think we're heading in the right direction. Did you want to say something, Kelly?
I want to say a million things, but I will say briefly that, again, because the Parents Diversity Council is our board are made up of folks who have kids in the schools, and we just had someone resign from the board because her kids graduated this year. So there are folks in town who have been working on these issues and are maybe becoming available. Are there 7 right now this moment? I won't promise that. But I think that there are folks in town who have been working on these things and are available. And if you'll give me the space, I want to say one thing in response to your comment, Paul, about if a crime is committed, it needs to be handled by the police department, and I don't think anyone here would disagree with that. But I think that a lot of the things that come up, and you should probably be in a better place to speak to this, Lieutenant Jones, but there isn't someone identified who is the perpetrator. We see something drawn somewhere, and someone sees that and is affected by that, but there's no one to turn over to the police to prosecute. So it's those sort of things, and the Human Rights Commission is more about providing education, a space for folks who have experienced these things or seen these things to be able to talk, and to just help raise awareness about the impacts of these things. It's not about mediation, it's not about adjudication, it's not about taking the place of the police in any sort of way. It's about bringing people in the community together, as Bopa said, and thinking about this with all the heads in town, and by heads, I mean just the different stakeholders and the folks who are impacted. And I think that's the thinking here. So it's not about, I hear your comment.
Yep, no, and I
wouldn't
totally
agree with that. I would not disagree with that at all. We don't want.
I understand your point perfectly well, and it's an excellent point.
I do also want to highlight, it was referenced, I spoke passionately to the school committee about my experience last year, and I think the response of schools has been exemplary. and our select board goal was like, we need to support that work. This could be an excellent way for us to say, we agree with you, and we want to expand that work to include not just the schools, which I think we actually should be doing.
So-
Maybe this is the mechanism, you know?
So let me just jump on one point that Dan had made, and it's the, my most direct counterpoint to all the good points you raised, which is, there is probably tons of excellent room for such a committee to do good work, agreed. What I think I'm most wary of is a co-opting of it into divisive issues that just, you know, we're not gonna solve. And, you know, I think about, I usually hate this phrase, but it somewhat resonates with me, is, you know, one person, what is it? One person's revolutionary is another person's freedom fighter. I mean, we are free to have different points of, and anyway, I don't know if that's helpful at all, but that's, I'm aware if it could have possibly be divisive, but that, as I say those words out loud, I think I sound like a jerk because I know it's people of goodwill and there is a large area where good can be done.
No, Paul, I mean, I'm hinting at that, Paul, and that's why I said I don't want this body to be engaging in those kind of discussions about, like, here's how we feel about hot political topic A, B, or C, which could be interpreted in this day and age as exactly what you're saying. So, again, knowing the folks who are in the room who are leading us, like, nobody here feels that way. And yet I have seen that conversation be co-opted in other communities around here in that direction, which does concern me.
And
But I
Mark
trust
did
the
say
people in
something.
this room to be like, well, of course that wouldn't happen in Bedford, and a part of me says, but of course it could.
Write that in?
So that's that is my
So
concern, you know.
I think we could write that in,
Yeah.
that if, because I would agree with you that shouldn't be, and then that could be written in the charge.
I could possibly be, you know, swayed on that. And Mark did raise I think Mark raised the point that, you know, it could be sunsetted, you know, sunset after, you know, give it a 2-year run and then see how it, you know,
I think
goes.
it's ad hoc for a reason to see if it's.
Is that what you said, Mark?
Yeah, it's ad hoc.
Give yourself an out,
Yeah, so a wise man once said that.
But
Very
an ad
wise
hoc
man said not too
committee
long ago.
invariably
Yeah.
has that, right?
Huh?
An ad hoc committee.
Exactly, it's an
invariably-
entitled.
Yeah, but actually give it a sunset and then read. Anyway, whatever, let's get Terrence on and
So
we'll
I think
get
I
his
think,
wise thoughts.
I think we have a lot to process and think about, Ted, and I think we'll bring it back soon for Terrence to participate as well.
Yeah, I would
I really
appreciate
appreciate the comments and the discussion, and we're all pals here. I think we're on the same page, so I appreciate it. Okay. Our next lovely topic is going to be talking about town council, Mr. Hanson. Shall you remind us where we are?
Great, yes, so we finished our third interview at the end of the last meeting. However, it was late in the evening, and so to allow the board proper time to digest the third firm, we decided to postpone the meeting. As a reminder, we interviewed 3 firms: Anderson Krieger, our current town council, and KP Law were the first evening, and then Mead, Tellerman, and Costa was the second round of interviews. In your packet, I have your, information, your material that you reviewed. After the meeting, I did reach out to Anderson Krieger and let her know that the board needed some additional time to deliberate into July. And so we would, essentially be, sort of unofficially extending for 1 additional month. So we had more time to deliberate. She said, not a problem at all, take what time you need. So we're fine where we are as far as having town council. And from that perspective, and really, we're gonna continue the deliberation this evening.
Sure. I don't want to have the whole relitigation of all the, we met them all, they were all great, and we reacted in real time last time. We've had to think about it. I did talk to Terrence, just to sort of, and he just expressed like he's fine with whatever the 4 of us think, had no strong opinions. So they should speak freely and share opinions, and then hopefully take some action this evening. I think Paul wants to go first, maybe.
Yeah.
So Paul, go right ahead.
How did you know?
I don't know. I mean, there was a.
You have great
we had my
social
peripheral
awareness,
vision,
Jen.
right?
Alright, I don't think we could go wrong with any of the 3. But I think there's, from conversations prior, I do think it's time to turn the page, which would leave us with KP and Mead Tellerman. And I think Mead Tellerman has did an excellent job. I'm leaning towards them. I would prefer not to use their lump sum stuff, I'd rather just go by the hour. That didn't seem the way to go to me doing there. I like a la carte by the hour. And that's it. I could go into more depth but I think they were excellent. And they've had a working relationship with their town manager before.
First shot has been fired by Paul Mortensen about Mead Tellerman and their not lump sum option. Sean, reactions, additions, subtractions?
So, I mean, where I left off the last time was I do think it's time to move on from Anderson Krieger, again, with respect to what they've done for the town past 6 or 7 years. I know at the last meeting I was thinking, you know, KP Law and Mead Tellerman both, they both gave strong presentations. They both have a wealth of experience from many more towns. Subsequent to the last meeting, I did really like the follow-up from Mead Tellerman, because I know I mentioned at the last meeting, they looked like they were hungry, or they looked like they really wanted this, and the follow-up with the thank you letter where it was so personal and this is why we think we'd be good, I'd give a bit of an edge to them as well. I mean, if we go with KP Law, I wouldn't be upset. They do 200 municipalities and they have so many niche people there. I think there's a benefit, but I mean, Mead also has a pretty good reach as well. But that would be, you know, Mead 1, KP Law 2 for me.
Great. Bopa.
So originally, as I shared during the last meeting, I was, you know, obviously all of them were great, and I'm torn and I'm loyal. You know, at the same time, though, during the times that we had for us to think through this and listening to the voices of some of our residents, you know, of some of the issues that will be coming up for our town, and thinking who would better help to serve us through these priorities going forward. I do, I love the personal touch of Mead and Tellerman. At the same time, I'm more leaning towards KP.
Yeah, I was gonna, I mean, Bopa, I kind of feel the same way. Terrence is not here, so I do feel like if I was gonna lean on my, I'd lead KP. But I also, I think that, Sean, your comment, to feel like Mead, Tellerman, and Costa were eager and hungry, perhaps more than KP was. But I was super impressed with both of them. So I do think we might have a 2-2 thing here, and Terrence isn't here. That's what I think.
If we were to review what Terrence said.
Terrence said, I know what Terrence said.
Just so we all know.
I'm not gonna, well,
He
he's
was
not here to
very-
vote, so it's fine. So would it be injurious to wait 2 weeks to take final position, to see what things might happen between now and then?
No, not at all. Like Nina said, I mean, it's very common to just, you know,
Okay.
continue.
In which case, I think we should wait and do a full vote when he's here, because I feel like we're probably 2-2 on this. Sorry, everybody else?
Yeah, certainly I want to have Terrence.
Great. If it was unanimous, I would have voted, but I think we're of 2 minds, and I think you should wait. So let's do that. Thank you very much for your patience. Potential town councils of ours, and let's see what happens in 2 weeks. Sorry to disappoint. No action will be taken. But there's some other action about upcoming dates, Mr. Hanson.
Yes,
So
great.
walk us through that.
So, and thank you for Autumn for doing the homework on our last year's dates on these to help us put these together and get our schedule together. But looking to do goal setting, we have a couple dates in mind. Last year we did July 28th. This year, to be consistent, it would probably be either July 27th or August 3rd. We'll see if this board.
I prefer August 3rd if that's possible. If people are around.
Either works for me.
Either way. So this would be in addition to the July
Addition to next
20th
meeting.
Yeah, typically.
So I'd rather
it's
just not do
completely
week,
set.
and following weeks, space it out if possible.
Yeah, I think last year or two, we've needed to keep the other meetings. If we only had one quick item, I know it's kind of, we don't want to do any other business on there, but I think we maybe have broken this rule once or twice. If there's
Let's-
one or two
I'm
Last
contracts.
year we had some business, I know. But
Yeah,
it was
okay,
like
keep
Talking.
talking.
I like it. Keep talking.
I'm willing to break the rules and do a couple contracts on goal setting if it eliminates a full meeting.
Me, as am I.
I agree.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So
I'll
the
keep that in mind.
27th.
The 27th is fine then. If you want to push it up a week to be aggressive.
Okay, so we'll combine the 20th and the 27th and just do goal setting in our next meeting, the 27th. I'm good with that if that works for you.
I'm looking
Paul,
for
you gonna say
yeses.
anything?
I like that. And so goal setting would be earlier in the day, is that the way?
I will say, we did get some feedback about not having it in this room, which I want to revisit. Like, just to have it in Middlesex, to have it somewhere else versus having it in here. I don't mind having it in here, and people have a hard time getting up there if you believe the feedback that we got. Or do you feel like compelled to have it in a different location?
I don't feel compelled to have it in a different location.
Do you anybody else have strong feelings?
I mean, I know the original idea of that was to kind of be in more of a brainstorming session, which I can appreciate. Sometimes changing a venue, it gives it more of a retreat feel. But if I don't feel strongly, if people are complaining that they really want to partake in this or watch it and they're not able to get there, then it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd given the accessibility and the videoing and the ease to watch, if unless there's a reason not to, I prefer to have it in here and just keep it easy.
No, I don't have any strong feelings about it. That was just tradition.
Right.
So,
Well, I'm a tradition breaker. Snap it. All right.
We're still gonna have food, right?
yeah, no, I think. No, I mean, that was gonna be my.
I didn't even consider that. We'll keep that tradition.
Yeah, we don't want to break that tradition.
I want some seltzers, I want some
For the
sandwiches.
record, I'm against the food.
Cookies, Paul, you're outvoted.
Taxes are rising. Bring your own water and food for crying out
July
loud.
27th, perhaps in here, earlier start
I was
date, food
serious.
included, and we'll talk about town council.
I do think, regardless of location, a slightly earlier start date and the food helps create the atmosphere.
I'm really for food, bro.
Yes.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, let's go. Excellent, thank you, everybody. Special town meeting is the next.
Yep, we had discussed it at a prior meeting that appeared to be the date that would work best for the board. It hadn't been showing up on the first draft, but we had checked with you. I just wanted to confirm that that's still good. People started to ask. That was the day we sort of had a placeholder for. So just want to 100% confirm that
Works.
date essentially.
Regular special, not extra.
Regular special. No extra specials this year.
Well, easy you.
For now, right. I can't speak for the future.
You just started 4 days ago. And then holiday celebration.
Yeah, so last year was on the 15th. This year, looking at the 7th or the 21st. There's something in the middle.
21st.
Oh, we have a meeting on the 14th. That's what it was.
Does it have to be a Monday?
I thought the reason for it being a Monday that we don't have a meeting is that it tends to be less conflicting of other boards that have meetings. That historically, that was why we did Monday.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. The rest of the week, there probably would be other boards that may not be able to go, unless they had to move their meeting. So I mean, I suppose with enough advance notice, one of those other boards could, but there are typically meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm not so sure what Wednesdays.
Shall I lodge my annual complaint?
Yes.
You shouldn't spend the money on going out to.
Boo.
Paul, make some
Paul,
friends.
I'm booing
What?
you.
Make
We
some
can
friends.
water in the reef room.
I do, I
Piper?
I'm recording that.
Water's all you get, Piper.
No,
That's
and
all
all,
it is.
it's a serious thing. I think we should, but that's fine. I certainly partook in the chicken
I saw you
fingers and
eating-
whatnot
I saw
last
you
year.
eating last year.
But it was in front of me.
I paid
I feel like
extra.
December
I paid
7th
extra for that to-go box, Paul.
Do you like
Those
December
were-
7th is the answer?
Yeah.
December 7th feels like the right answer?
Yes,
I'm
I
out
think
for it.
so, yes,
Harbor Day.
yes.
Yeah, 21st is a little
21st
close.
is too close to the holidays.
Way too
I need some more time shopping and stuff.
Also, it's actually Hanukkah, so we can celebrate
okay.
together.
Yeah,
You
no,
know, welcome
yes.
everybody.
Yes.
All right, so dates check, and check, which brings us to the consent agenda.
Okay. And wow, we were pretty close on the time.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Good job.
So
Well,
there's
I think Robert Contari helped because he spoke even faster than me. So,
There's a few things on here, as I mentioned to the board, we can kind of discuss them collectively one at a time. You could do one vote or individual votes, but there's 5 things. Starting with some of the simple ones you've always seen, meeting minutes, some 20Bs, conflict of interest forms, board and committee reappointments, which, we have a memo on, again, each of the past few meetings you've asked whether you want to take them individually or as a group, so you may want to talk about that separately. Approving and amending the special ed funding policy. Again, it's a very minor change.
Let's actually do one at a time. There's a lot
Yeah.
there, I think. All right, so the
And
first
the
one.
public- so the first is reaffirming public building operating hours. I put a memo in your packet, but it's very similar to the last couple memos. The only difference is we have another 6 months or so now of sort of information, if you will. I'd say, you know, things have sort of smoothed out any of the kinks in the last 6 months. So our general recommendation is, you know, we said we would revisit again in July, and it's certainly working extremely well from a staffing perspective. And very little, at least that has come to our office from a availability to get work done from the community perspective. You know, either resident complaints or calls or inability to get work done. It's been, I can't use the word near zero. There's been like an occasional phone call or something, you know, something we've had to pick up on Monday, but I think so far the benefits strongly outweigh any, you know, bills or perceived deficits. So the sort of the department perspective is that we keep the current status for the time being to revisit on an as-needed basis.
I guess the question is, how long do you want to extend this watch and observe pattern? And that's what I would say to the board.
Well, I think at this point, I think just go with the as needed.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate we extended it the last time because it was new, people were kind of skeptical. But I also appreciate there have been very low complaints lately, and you know, I'm not hearing any as a select board member anymore, even though at the beginning I heard people being skeptical. I'm not hearing people coming and saying, hey, I can't do this. So I'm fine to continue this indefinitely until we choose to revisit it for whatever reason.
So I think I would be, but one question is whether or not if we extend it indefinitely, can we stop it at any time if we think it doesn't work for us? In other words, does that almost become like a right of an employee and union things where it's like, oh, we have a interest in that which we've been getting?
Sure. You know, this only affects non-union employees, so that does make it a bit easier. I would say if it was a completely union environment, it would be a changing in working conditions going to this and then changing out of it. And we would have had to handle that a little bit more difficult. I think if we were to go back, as long as it was done with notice to the employees, that would be fine in the future, just because, you know, practically it's something that can be done just through the board in my office.
So that's helpful with the union versus non-union. And then I would just say, I would hope a future select board wouldn't feel obliged to, oh, if we go back to Friday hours, we have to sweeten the pot, because I think, I just don't think that would be fair. And what I say now doesn't affect what a future select board would have to do, but do you understand my point?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
If this board or a future board felt strongly about the Friday hours, whether it's a half day or a full day or whatnot, I would say the board would probably just at that time, from a competitiveness perspective, need to reconsider a sort of a remote work or some flexibility policy, because that's sort of what we had and we moved away from as part of this. So this wasn't directly really related to compensation. It was more about consistency, 4 days, longer days, but everyone's in the office versus you know, everybody gets 1 day where they can work from home type deal. I do think we would get pushback for the 5-day schedule to have some type of flexibility built in. It wouldn't be required, but from a competitiveness perspective, that would be more the norm. Going with the 4 days, we were able to do away with that. So we're less flexible now, but the overall benefit to the employees of being able to work the 4-day work week, overall people accept that as their preferred option right now.
Okay.
Motion we have, I think, says all that, so I'm happy to take it.
So are we moving these separately now?
Yeah, let's move them separately. They're all kind of weighty, you know?
I move that the select board authorize the continuation of the current public building hours for town hall, town center, and applicable administrative offices with continued monitoring of resident feedback and service delivery as needed.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 4 abstentions. 4-0-0. The amended special ed policy. What is the amended part of the policy, Mr. Hanson?
So our current policy, we set a strict limit of 950,000, which at the time mirrored the amount of the law, which was 2% of net school spending. Technically, net school spending goes up occasionally every year, every few years, so it's a little over $1 million now. School department would just like it tied to the Mass General Law. So we don't have an arbitrarily lower limit. It will technically increase a little bit each year. That's all. It's a very small change.
That makes
Nice.
sense. Support it. Any further discussion of the special ed stabilization funding policy amendment?
So I know I brought this up when Cliff was here before, but I don't see anything here about expectations, and I'm not sure about whether that's inherent to the idea of a stabilization fund, but my concern being that stabilization fund should not regularly be used, or else it's not a stabilization fund. Is that something inherent to the stabilization fund law, or should towns use it regularly, or?
The law doesn't really differentiate that. I would think that would be something more appropriate for the policy. That's something we tried to address, and it's similar to the language you have here when I was in Tingsboro. And the language here, the way I think that's addressed in two ways. The first is through saying that the funding source is going to first be derived from leftover school funds at the end of the year. So the idea first and foremost to build this is that it's not supposed to be you spend all the money plus the stabilization fund and the town refills it every year, because that is really just a supplement to the budget.
Yeah.
So by putting that first in here, saying this is supposed to be filled up by you first and foremost, you have a good year where you have extra money, you put it away, and then you have it for the next year. That's written in here already as one of the ideas. In the transfers out language, I would think that maybe that's the place where we could add some additional language for how often it should be used. Right now, this is just based on the school department had sort of preemptively amended this to reference the MGL instead of the $950,000 cap. So I've kept it exactly as they amended it. They discussed it on May 19th. So yeah, there's nothing in here specifically to your point though about how often should it be used.
Yeah, and I mean, that is a concern, and I know this is really new, so I mean, we don't have a lot of data. I don't know if we have to wait a few years, and then if it's being used every year, say, okay, what's going on, and I also am curious what the rest of the board feels.
I think a few things can be true. Number one, the costs have escalated beyond the school's control in many ways. Secondly, it is being used de facto as a secondary funding source, which they're going to rely on for years. I think it's inevitable. And I don't know how we can put the brakes on that unless we just give them money and say, we're getting a stabilization fund, like make do with this lump sum they're putting into your base budget, But what if it goes over that because of extraordinary circumstances? It's tough. I really didn't like when it was funded and not used. You all remember that. So I'm pleased that it was used this year because it should be used first before the town money. So I don't know. I think this is fine. I don't love it. No one really loves it. We talk about it, but I think it's an important way to protect the schools from unforeseen. But they are sort of foreseen and they're sort of predictable. So what do you do?
Yeah, and no doubt there's a good reason for this. I think that we should have a stabilization fund. There are some years that are heavier than others, or maybe they're expecting on a funding source and then it gets pulled or it doesn't follow through, but.
And this is the best we're gonna do.
I think probably right.
I will say the discussion has been pretty healthy each year between, I think, the finance committee, this committee, and the school committee about what is your intent with the special ed stabilization fund. And maybe that's just because it's new, but as long as that question comes up during the budget process each year, and we're keeping an eye on the fact that it's not intentionally being supplanted, or if it is being planned to be used, there's a very good justification for it, like something unexpected that we think is going to go away. So we've had pretty healthy dialogue the last 2 years about its planned use anyways, which I've been happy with.
Super. Is there a motion to approve the special ed reserve fund policy as amended, or amended special ed reserve fund policy?
So moved.
Great. Second. Moved in second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? 4-0. Then we have reappointments, 20Bs, and meeting minutes. Any discussion of those 3 items?
So I think on reappointments, I think we should go in a new direction on Mark. and just get some fresh personnel. So I would not move the Bark nomination.
So, may I? I do want to thank Molly Haskell for her willingness to volunteer and to serve as chair. And I know obviously, as we all part of boards and committees and volunteer work, it's a lot of commitment, and I really appreciate that. So with that said, I do, in terms of thinking through this, I would support what you said, Paul, because that I wouldn't want to, I would make a recommendation to not reappoint as well. As a board liaison to this committee, I have had the opportunity to observe this committee over many years, ever since I've been on the select board. And I've been having concerns about it, and I just feel like it hasn't been, the meeting has been very disorganized and ineffective, and and I like I said, this is not, I really appreciate Molly's work and her dedication, and it's not about that, but I think at this point, I do think we can, we've been doing well with filling in boards and committees, and there's less opening now that I feel like I also feel like it's time for new blood.
Sean?
I support Molly. I have talked with her offline sometimes, and I believe she's sincere and certainly passionate about the subject. I think if there are issues with the effectiveness of Bark overall, that shouldn't be blamed on just Molly. So I would be in favor of her reappointment.
I have no insight or perspective, and this is a big one. So I think we should move everyone else and have Terrence participate in the vote to not renew Molly if possible. I feel that's the right thing to do.
Okay.
So I'll take then reappoint absent Molly for further consideration when Terrence is here.
Okay, so I'll just say so moved if that works.
Yeah.
Sure, whatever I said, but more slowly. Moved and seconded. All those in
Second.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I'll say aye to that, but I would also make a suggestion that if we're going to be talking about Molly not possibly reappointing her,
Have her
that
come
should
in.
be invited to the
I think it's
next
probably the right
meeting.
thing to do. Yeah. Thank you, Sean.
Okay.
All this,
Sean, do you mean an interview, or because I don't think that's
I think an interview, right? Like we can ask her questions. If there's concerns, I think it's only fair that she hear the concerns and be able to state her.
I think that's a fair point.
I think, and also, she was here last year, and I think Paul, you gave her some feedback as well as
Yeah,
chair, and I
yeah.
think we should reflect on how that went, and give us some conversation.
And regardless of which way it goes with our next meeting, I would of course say, thank you for time served, etc. So I don't.
Right. So I think we got moved, seconded, 4-0-0 vote on those all those reappointments, absent Molly for the discussion when Terrence is here, when she can come and discuss with us. Excellent. And there are two more items: the 20Bs and the 6:15 meeting minutes. Is there a motion
So
to
I move the
those two?
remaining two.
All moves.
No, second.
And Sean seconds remaining items, which are D and E. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? There are not. 4-0-0. On to Matt's very short town manager's report.
Get through it. I know we're trying to get to the game.
It's fine.
But there's some great stuff in
That's how it
here.
starts with my daughter. Oh, you're so funny. You're so funny.
Careful.
Okay, the screen sharing's having a little issues, but I'm gonna just highlight a few things here. We were awarded a $265,000 MassDOT grant to improve safety. It's through their Shared Streets and Spaces program for accessibility at the Promontory Trail crossing at Route 62. So for RFBs, advanced warning, ADA compliant curb ramps, new sidewalks, etc. So we're gonna be bidding that in early 2027. Trisha the Squisha, which is the best name ever for the town's cardboard compactor.
Try again.
Trisha the Squisha.
Better.
Is that better? So freshly painted by Sarah Scoville.
Who else?
Wish we could have cardboard compact. It was named through a lighthearted community contest hosted by the Bedford Citizen. Just the best name ever. Annual catch basin cleaning taking place around town. So if you see that truck on the side of the road, know that that's what they're doing, cleaning out our catch basins. Thank you to our DPW.
That's a beautiful looking squisher.
Isn't it?
I haven't even looked at that yet.
Cardboard recycling.
Is it a sea
So,
creature?
And the octopus wrapping it around. The hope is that this will
'cause
attract
the-
more people to the cardboard. Yeah, it took me a minute too. I'm like, an octopus, that's weird. And then I said,
You got
no,
it faster than I did.
it's
Yeah,
not
it's
weird.
No, it's weird, but it makes sense.
It is. We're not throwing the cardboard into the ocean. Don't. That's not what.
The ocean here in Bedford.
Yes. Oh, goodness. Future use, 55 The Great Road. We're holding a virtual public forum because it is July and it's over the summer. We're going to be doing it virtually. And the most important message here is that this is not the only public forum. It's just the first. There'll be another one in person in the fall when school starts again. But this is the first public forum now that the consultants have finished up with their site visits of that space, some of our other spaces in town, meeting with department heads. They're putting some filing touches on a presentation to help facilitate the gathering of initial public feedback. We're going to be putting some more information on the website this week regarding a nice cleaned up floor plan with some dimensions to show the spaces that are available, some initial feedback. Bedford TV, MAPC did a tour of that their existing space today. They visited the fire station today. They're sort of, I would say, the main quasi-public department that has an interesting use that we've heard so far. Certainly MAPC gets some good feedback from our office through, the health department and youth and family services and the food bank and that sort of entire operation, recreation, library, the need for more meeting space in town, the need for more cultural space in town. So, the initial feedback does, just for the board's interest, seem to be focusing pretty heavily on culture and recreation and meeting space and availability in that sort of vein. So we'll be interested to see what additional or new ideas we haven't, heard of yet come through the first public forum. Wednesday, July 22nd, 7 p.m. on Zoom. We have a photo here from the swearing-in ceremony for Police Chief Amendola. We are happy to have him join us on June 8th. Springsbrook Park officially opened on June 19th. I've got a great photo there. More information, bedfordma.gov/recreation. This is myself and Eric Salerno. This is completely separate timing, but we got a tour through the Middlesex 3 Coalition with Professor Sugesh Agara to discuss the governor's office's Mass Advanced Nuclear Fusion Energy Roadmap. This was touched upon earlier, but so Professor Agara is helping the governor on that task force, and he offered a tour of UMass Lowell's nuclear reactor, which really works as more of a nuclear lab. It could produce energy if it really wanted to, but they do a lot of testing on medicines and things like that need testing. It was very neat. Finance Department wants to remind folks that fiscal year 27 first quarter real estate bills were mailed on June 30th and they are due on August 3rd. Citizen of the Year nominations are now open and we have received several so far. So it will be a competitive year. So if you are not nominated, just know that it's a competitive year. Some years are, there may only be a few, but I think this is going to be a competitive year.
We love that. We have so many amazing citizens.
I know.
No, we do. So people I'm not even super familiar with myself until you read their nomination. You say, wow, we have many, really great folks here in town. Amazing summer concert series coming up starting July 9th and then going throughout the summer. Thank you to the rec department and all of the folks.
What is a video game music brass band? Playing Sonic the Hedgehog with like trombones and stuff?
That's outside my area of expertise.
Mario, like.
I'm gonna have to go and find out. That sounds. I think that's exactly what it is.
I think I can actually. It makes sense when I make the noise. Enough about me. How about those goats?
Yes, the newest member of the facilities team. It's funny, I said the same thing when we did this when I was in Tingsboro, had the goats come through a specific area of town. You can like rent goats for a day or a week and they clean up all your poison ivy. It is
I love that.
amazing
Who took that picture?
how
It's a great
much they
picture.
can eat. Oh, normally we put,
It's a very serious look into the goat's eyes.
yeah, Erin Dorr sent us
There's
the
the goat.
photo.
There's the goat.
Yeah. They can clean up a lot of greenery, and it's not just poison ivy, they'll clean up a lot of the other stuff as well, but
I should do that.
13 goats from Maple Dell
I love
Farms
the goat.
arrived.
goats? You
Yeah,
should-
as
you should
opposed
have-
to, yeah, I need them.
What, your house or
No, my
or your workplace?
hire the goats.
I don't know, why not?
They're not cheap, I'm not gonna lie, they're
Oh,
prevailing
okay, maybe.
wage.
In that case, forget about it.
Yeah,
Owen.
forget it. No goats.
Anyway, you were saying?
Just kidding.
Then we have some featured jobs, some congratulations to some employees celebrating 30 years in the facilities department, James Fisher, Sam Panzeri in the fire department, 29 years, Peter Lazarus, 22 years in facilities, and Peter Spencer, fire, 18 years. So thank you to those employees for their commitment to Bedford. Because we've had a few transfers out, we are opening up again for laterals. It's a process again where we don't have to go through the whole same testing process. So most departments are almost always open to laterals, but by putting an advertisement out, it really adds to the attraction and helps increase the number of candidates you can get. So we are open to lateral officers. That's our advertisement that's gone out. We have our vacancy spotlight. With all of our vacancies here, we're down to a very reasonable number. And that's it for the GM report.
Okay. Are there any urgent liaison reports? I think there might not be. Great. In which case?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And second, roll call vote. Ms. Malone?
Yes.
Mr. Hannigan?
Yes.
Mr. Mortensen?
Yes.
Yes, we are adjourned at 9:21 p.m. See you on the 27th. Let's go.
Recordings